Welcome to TopShot NFT. I'm your host, Jason, and today I've got a guy in his basement that loves blockchain and TopShot NBA basketball. His name is Luke Doucet, or LG Doucet.
Doucet, man. Come on. How do you listen to the first part of the podcast where I say blockchain and basketball? You don't hear the name. I love it. No, you mispronounce it all day, man. It's all good.
It was kind of this subconscious way to get back at you for mispronouncing all the basketball players' names.
Oh, come on, man.
Like
that was
Chris
only a couple times.
Laverette. It's actually kind of funny. I found that there's everybody in TopShot that I've had on the show has mispronounced some basketball player or two's name. I wasn't trying to get at you. I was being a little lazy in my brain, just trying to get started. It's 4 p.m. here in Los Angeles, and I'm just waking up. So living that TopShot life. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a TopShot life, man.
So, LG, you have created a monster over there at the First Mint. I believe that I started TopShot around January 7th was the first day I bought a pack. And I immediately started looking for content creators. I came across Cryptoad. I want to say that you had 1 or 2 episodes out of the First Mint, maybe.
I think I just dropped the first one like 2 days before that. Yeah. I had been tweeting for like maybe a couple weeks about just different. I've just been pulling like different stats and just putting them into tweets and stuff like that. And then that was around the time where I decided I was like, okay, I'll actually just make a podcast. And yeah, so that was around the first one for sure.
And I came across Wade's had a couple of videos, which he's our Aussie correspondent. And it was interesting because that was one of the reasons why we started the TopShot NFT, Lennox and I, was that we just fell into it so quick, and we were talking on the phone for like 2 hours a day, and we're like, dude, we should be just kind of brain dumping this as a podcast. And then of course, I have a background in broadcasting. I wanted to interview people and just kind of get information for myself, and I thought all this is worth kind of putting out. When you started doing the First Mint, what was your kind of thought to it? Am I along a similar trajectory with that?
Totally. I think for First Mint, I had been in TopShot since maybe like early September or something like that. And I'd been kind of hovering around everything in NFTs for a while, probably around, well, not for a while, like not that long, but since about like middle of 2020. And obviously, having the NBA license was like a huge deal. So I always felt like TopShot had that potential. But it's funny, and I feel like some people have been talking about it in the last couple of days on Twitter, is that I think for a lot of us, it was very quiet through like November and December on TopShot, right? It was pretty dead. And there was also like, if you think there's a lot of challenges now, there was like a ton of challenges. There's probably as many challenges in November and December as there are now, but with like one hundredth of the people on TopShot. But I think everybody felt at the time that, this still had a lot of the potential that we're now seeing fulfilled. So I don't know, through the holiday break, I really wanted to kind of break more into the industry for NFTs and kind of like find more avenues for myself to create value and use some of my skills, which are content creation. So, I don't know, over the Christmas break, and I started kind of poking around the community. I asked Usman, I was like, has anybody talked about like doing any kind of TopShot radio or anything like that? And you mentioned Wade was doing something, and and then I don't know, one day I just kind of like woke up and I was like, I should just do this, because I'm starting to get a lot of questions from people, and it feels like something that we could use. I had actually tried to start a fantasy game. This is something people don't know. I actually ran like a fantasy pool or two just as the season started, for like a daily fantasy, like pick your players, like through Yahoo, I think. And then I met Theo, who runs Swish, and realized he was already doing that in a far more organized way. So I actually ditched the fantasy idea and then just decided to make a podcast instead. And that first week, like, I didn't really know what to expect, man. Like, people enjoyed it and got a lot of great feedback from my friends around TopShot. And I was like, okay, cool. Like maybe I'll keep making them. And then somehow it's 3 months later, and we've got a great podcast. We've got some great guests. People find it really helpful. People are learning a lot through the podcast, and now through the website that we have going and Twitter channel and everything. So I don't know. It's just kind of happened, but wouldn't have if I didn't like put myself out there in a way. Right. It was scary. It was scary to do the first one, man. It's like when you're just a person on Discord for a long time, and then you're like, hey, everybody, listen to me talk for an hour. That's pretty freaky when you're in a close-knit community, right? Like, you don't know how people are going to react to that. So
what is your background though? What were you doing before? Like, is this your first kind of delve into broadcasting as well, or?
No, I went to broadcast school. So I grew up in Toronto, and I went to a school called Ryerson University. That's pretty well known for its broadcast program. And obviously it's a long time ago, but everybody there that went there at one point or another had to get like some kind of basic on-air training. And I have a lot of friends that graduated and are now, on-air TV personalities in Canada. They're on like Sportsnet and TSN, which are like the ESPN equivalents up here, and on some of the news and stuff like that. And some friends who are writers for TV shows in the industry, musicians, everything, with just like a swath of like media expertise. And for me, I actually went into marketing. I went into content marketing, and I kind of caught the social media wave from like 2009 when brands were starting to get in the space and be like, how do we write a Facebook post? What's this Instagram thing? Like that was a real conversation I had like probably about 100 times in 2010 and 2011. It was like, what do we do? What do we do with this Facebook thing? And so I caught that wave and just, slowly built expertise around being a content person, and then worked agency life for a long time. Most recently, I was an executive producer for a video shop in Vancouver, Canada here. And we were doing like truck commercials and yoga pant commercials and stuff like that. So I don't know, kind of like an array of stuff. So I have both like a producer background, but also slight talent background. I've always tried to use my voice for something, like literally the talent of my voice. I have like a audio demo tape somewhere that I don't know where it is, but it exists. Yeah. That was used for 40. I did at least 40 auditions at one point for voiceover work, and none of which I booked. But yeah, so I don't know, this is like a good use of everything I can do. I've always been able to do.
So I started when I was 18 on radio, and me and my best friend had a sports talk show, and we both wanted to go into television. He started out in like Texas and Illinois. I started out at CNN. Then I went over to Ireland, worked for their network, doing some soccer stuff. And then I came back and worked NBC in South Carolina. And it's funny because my professional full-time sportscasting career was about 7 years. And then I left that, and I've always somehow gotten pulled back into it. When I became a professional poker player, and I was at a TV final table, and they found out that I had this background as a sportscaster, and they're like, well, if you get knocked out, can you jump in the booth and do commentary? And I'm like, well, nice. I don't want to get knocked out, and you just jinxed me. And of course I get knocked out. Like,
of course you got knocked out. Yeah.
Yeah. And that spawned funny. This poker commentary. And then social media was a big part of me. So I just say all this because when I saw you, and I've heard a lot of stuff, first of all, your voice is great. Like, it is a broadcaster's voice, and it's something that I'm always been kind of envious. Like my best friend, his name is Brian Jost. He's got a podcast, Pick Up the Six. And he, like, when you hear, there's certain people that when you hear them, it's like, damn it, they are broadcasting voices. I always felt like for my voice, like I'm kind of trying to be a little bit broadcast. I finally just do my natural voice, but in the beginning, that first demo tape that I was sending out, like the Walter Cronkite,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's what everyone tries to do. Yeah. No, it's good. I think using your natural voice is the best way, because you'll be most authentic that way. But I will tell you, if you're talking about my voice, I had this voice like when I was like 12.
Yeah.
So and I was already, I'm 6 feet tall, and I was already all like, by the time I turned 13, I was already 6 feet tall. And I sounded like this. So people were like, oh my God, like, Luke, you're going to be a giant one day, because they're like, your voice is so deep and your feet are so big and you're already 6 feet tall and you're only 13. Like, you're going to be a freak. And that didn't happen. I literally stayed the exact same since then. So I had like, my like shape has barely changed, and nor has my voice. But what was funny is that, like, I got one of my first jobs. I was working at I was like doing like I don't know, I was working at like a candy store, like literally replacing candy.
Yeah.
And they called me in for an interview, and when they talked to me on the phone, like the guy definitely thought that I was like 40, and he's like, "Hey man, yeah,
Wow.
Luke, come on in." And I was like, "Hello, yes, hello, this is Luke." And then I came in, and he was like, "Oh," like you could see the shock in his face because he thought I was like a grown man, but then I was like literally just a skinny kid. So now the voice is great, but there was a long time in my life where the voice was like weird.
So I'm pretty self-deprecating on this show, and there I was the opposite. I was kind of tall. I'm about 6'2" right now, 6'3", but in high school I was like 5'9", 5'10". Played on the basketball team, but like I would order pizza and they would always be like, "No problem, ma'am. We'll be there in 10 minutes." Like
Really that
I
bad?
had this like on the phone, like it was like
Oh
sounding like a girl,
no.
and that's devastating. But worse, my senior basketball picture, like I'm doing a reverse dunk, and I look tough. However, I don't grow like facial hair. Like I started shaving when I was like in my late 20s. I didn't even have armpit hair as a senior in high school, and so I'm doing this reverse dunk, and I can't wait to give it to all the girls because that's going to get me laid in my mind. And then like somebody realizes like, "Jason, do you shave your armpits?" And I'm like, "Oh, burn all these pictures. What a waste." So I was all that to say that I was the opposite. I was the late developer guy, and I actually grew like 4 inches my freshman year of college, which to me was just a waste. So
Huh.
yeah,
That's all right, man. Hey, late bloomer, it doesn't change anything, man. You seem like you're doing well now. You seem like a handsome guy. So, I think that's fine.
I appreciate that. It's okay. I talked to my shrink earlier today. We don't have to do a therapy session today. So,
All right.
yeah, I'm curious, like in regards to just Top Shot. There's one in particular thing that's been going on, and we could spend the whole time talking about Top Shot. I don't really want to do that, but one thing in particular that kind of bothers me, I want to get your thoughts, is the gifting has been disabled, and I understand the gifting aspect in regards to like trying to eliminate multiple accounts, and I understand why they're doing it. However, they're doing it in the middle of all these challenges. And when I first got to Top Shot, I was actually anti-challenge. I thought they were dumb. And then the community and even Top Shot kind of encouraged it, as a way of like being a collector and being involved in the community. And also like teaming up with people, because there's no way that most people could ever afford to do a holo challenge. Obviously, if we could buy packs unlimited, then there would be a chance to acquire all these moments from packs, but we know that that's impossible. Like you get one moment to try and complete like 9 cards of a challenge. Mm-hmm. I just seen that, like, so I say that me and my buddy, Lennox that does the show, like we made a decision to do the metallic golds, like all the challenges. So we bought like, between the both of us, we bought all the golds, and now we can't compete in the challenge because we can't send each other the golds. And I think that that's just a real big misstep. And I'm just curious your thoughts.
Could you? Oh man, that's such a pain. I don't know. I think I have so many thoughts there. I think one, we're still at a point, and this is very much like taken from the company line cloth of Dapper, mm-hmm. But this is the part of that company line that I agree with, and then I'll talk to a different point. I think on one side it's like, yes, it's beta, the B word. Mm-hmm. Things aren't going to work properly. They're going to try a bunch of different shit to try and get it to work properly, to get to the point where we don't have bot issues. And within that, I think the subtext there is that there is a lot that we don't know as just the collectors. I think there's a lot happening there that they're not revealing because, of course, if they're trying to fight botters and all that kind of stuff, then they're not going to tell us what they found. They're just going to take different actions to kind of combat that. So from the like, okay, let's get TopShot to a point where it's great and we can get out of beta and we can welcome 10 million more people into it. Totally. I'm like, there's a part of me that's very much like at all costs, just get it done. And the people that are in now, you got to accept the fact that you're a guinea pig and you might get screwed on some things, but it's for the greater good. And you know, if you're still here at this point, you got to understand that. So that's one part of me where I'm like, okay, that in a sense, that does make sense. On the other hand, I think there are different ways to communicate that type of stuff. And again, I get it that you want to keep it a little bit in the dark so that, you know, the people, the nefarious actors don't get a head start. But at the same time, I think it's really hard to expect people to swallow that pill from my first point when you are dealing with challenges that literally cost like thousands of dollars. Right? Yeah. If the metallic gold, I think the part that we don't really talk about enough when we're talking about the problems is that the prices are so high right now that totally, like if you and Lennox go in on a metallic gold challenge and you spend $100 and he spends $100 and then shit, $100 you got to dump, like, okay, that's not the end of the world. Okay. But you're talking about like $3,000 each. Right. And that's, or $2,000.
Well, we actually did the metallic gold.
So you got all of them, right? You got all of them for all the upcoming challenges, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So way more than that.
Way more. And of course, now, like, not only like is that frustrating that we can't exchange the cards, but also we bought most of them, like most of them were on the rise. So we didn't quite get to the February 21st peak. But, you know, like I definitely paid $1,000 for Tomas and Baisley and Andrew Wiggins, and they're now like going like sub 300. So like there's a lot of them that I took on that were taken on the chin. That's fine. That's the market, you know, but now like we can't even get the reward, you know, like it's that again, it's, you know, I'm as fanboy as the next person when it comes to TopShot, and I want it so I want it to succeed so much, but it's just like there's just so many times you're pinging the wrong people. Like just make yeah. And I wanted to say, well, just make it so that you can only exchange metallic golds, you know, like because I feel like the multiple accounts, it's all the new stuff, right? It's all they ripped a pack and now they're merging it to like their new thing. So, you know, anyone that's doing metallic gold challenges and hollow challenges, those are your OG people anyways. You know, like that it's just too expensive to just wake up and say, hey, let's do this, you know?
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, I agree with you, man. And that is tough. I'm sorry you're in that position. I mean, I don't really have much of an opinion. Like the situation's tough and all I have are facts, and that, you know, for better or for worse, the market clearly got inflated. I don't know if the market got inflated by people or by bots. You know what I mean? And it's like a lot of us, like you guys bought at the top. Like I have some metallic golds that I definitely bought, like the Trae Young at like $2,200 or whatever. Yes. Yeah. You know, I'm feeling you, man. Like I didn't go all in like you guys did, but it's like a lot of people in that position. And I think this might be really hard to hear and it's hard to even say, but it's like, I get a lot of messages, people asking me like, when's the market going to get back there? And it's like, I think there's a reality where it never will. Right. And that's really hard to hear for a lot of us who, you know, maybe bought in, like at the end of February, early March. But I think that's inevitably the reality is that by the time there's enough interest for those prices to return, there will be so many more moments by that point anyways, that the interest will have to dilute across. And perhaps that'll always be like a black eye on the history of this product, is that in beta, like some people got really screwed financially. And I don't know, there's not really any, I don't have any particular thoughts. I don't know if there's any specific person to point the finger at for that either. Like it's a collection of events. I really doubt that Dapper went out to like make people buy things for $5,000 to then just see the value plummet to $1,500. Like, I don't think anybody would do that purposefully. I think we just kind of got caught up in this like social experiment that we're still in that is just kind of messed up. And, I think the best we can hope for is that when the new wave does come, whenever that is, if it's this year at the playoffs or if it's next year or whatever, and some of us are still holding that it'll be worth our while in some way, financially, and that we can kind of get to the point where we actually really love it again. Because right now times are really hard.
I mean, and like I said, like I enjoy it. Like I enjoy the community. I like talking, having our own podcast. I've always said, like, I try to sip the Kool-Aid. I don't try and drink the Kool-Aid, and when everybody, is posting like Top Shot to the moon, it's like, we haven't been to the moon since the 60s, like,
Yeah.
let's pump the brakes,
Everything is cyclical. Sorry to cut you off, Jason. Like everything is cyclical, right? And NFTs haven't gone through a full cycle yet. Mm-hmm. Right. And for a lot of people, Top Shot is NFTs, right? As much as there's a lot of all these other, the horses and the CryptoPunks, all that stuff. They're like the undeniable fact is that for a lot of people, for hundreds of thousands of people, the only NFT they've ever interacted with is Top Shot. And so if you look at Top Shot making up a huge portion of the NFT market, I don't know which part we're at in the cycle right now, but there will be a bottom of the cycle that we're not at yet. And the same thing happened to crypto. The ICO boom 3-4 years ago,
right?
Cool. Like Bitcoin, Ethereum started mooning. Everybody made up all these like random ass coins that they sold. Half of them were scams. You're seeing the same thing in NFTs right now. And then some people got caught holding, holding the bag, man. Like some people bought at 20K for Bitcoin in early 2018. And then Bitcoin went all the way back down. Like the low was like 3K. Right. And now Bitcoin's at 60. Right. And I'm not saying that your metallic gold moments will necessarily go back up to triple what you bought them for. What I'm saying is that like for this kind of stuff, like we're so in the early goings of what all this is going to become that there will be cycles that are really painful, that we're going to go through. And I can tell you about another one, and this isn't to be an alarmist, but it's like, if you think times are tough in Top Shot right now, like the playoffs are going to be amazing, and then we're going to jump off a cliff the day the finals are over.
Yeah, I'm definitely if you are not on a playoff team contender right now in my Top Shot collection, you're getting cut.
It better be because you're Zion Zion's they're not in a playoff position right now, so that's one guy you could keep. But for the rest, you can dump him. Even someone like Anthony Edwards is a good example where it's like, rookie of the year is cool, but what's more cool? Playing basketball in June or this year July. Like that way is where worth way more to any fan. So
and here's what was interesting too, and then I want to kind of move into something more south of the border for us, but so I've got a friend, and she got into it. She knows very little about basketball, so her account's roughly like probably $300 or $400, for sure under 500, and she's in the top 30% of Top Shot users. I've got another guy that bought he bought in, unfortunately, for about like 9K, and now he's seen his profits like cut in half. But even at like 3 or 4K, he's still like in the top like 5% of accounts. Like I was just looking at those statistics just from my personal, and I'm just like, wow, that's kind of alarming that like you can be above 70% of users. So I think like sometimes the data needs to be careful when they're publicizing it. It's like if your account is worth less than 500 and you're in the top, you're ahead of 70% of all users, then that's very telling. And then also, like I said, if you could buy in for like 3 or 4K and be in a top 10% or top 5% of accounts, like we're really top heavy, when you hear like statistics like that, is that surprising, or is that,
no, not at all. I think there's tons of accounts that are dead. Like I think even the number we saw in what was like all the big investment news this week for Dapper, where they announced $300 million or whatever it was being invested in the company, and they said they had 800,000 Top Shot accounts.
Yeah,
right. Like that is like, man, like where are those people? I don't see those people.
Well, they probably.
Like what I'm saying is that it's like even a lot of the people that were here prior to January, like a lot of them had maybe still have, or they're multiple accounts.
Yeah.
Because it was, and that, to be defensive about it, like that was fine back then. You know what I mean? Not that it wasn't fine. It was still against the terms of service, but TopShot wasn't this like multi-million per account thing back then. Like
Right.
any of the guys who have accounts that are worth like $10 million now, they weren't worth $10 million in November. Like they were not worth very much at all. So having a couple accounts to fill up and do challenges was the main purpose. Like that was fine. So there's people that did that. And there's probably still tons of people who have signed up and never used it. And I think that goes towards whatever the account tabulation is. So I think a different way to look at those numbers. I don't really think about those numbers too much, more so because I look at it as like, how many daily active users are there actually? How many people come on to TopShot and do one transaction per day on average? And that would encapsulate somebody who comes in on a Saturday and does 10 transactions that still count for one per day. That's the number I want to know. That's more so what I want to understand, because somebody who only has $500 and they're in the top 30% of accounts, that's not really enough data to say that it's necessarily top heavy, because I don't think that top heavy is necessarily about having a big collection. I think top heavy is about how many people actually do how many of the transactions.
Right.
Because any other tech product, this is a tech product, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any other tech product, the engagement with the platform matters way more than how much money people have sunk into it. It's more so how much do you use the product, right? Like something like Facebook, I don't know, Microsoft Teams, I don't know, whatever other tech products there are, but it's like, that's what matters the most is daily active users, how much people engage. So there's no way to really like look at those numbers, but that would be the number that I'd be more curious about in terms of like whether I'd be like optimistic or concerned is right. All those people that came in during the last couple of waves, how many of them are actually hanging out now that their packs don't have a huge EV and are actually trying to do challenges, or at least trying to turn over some of the moments they got for better ones, or whatever their collecting strategy is. How many are actually hanging out, right? Because today the daily active users, or the daily buyers, the past 24 hours is like 14,000. So if on a down day you got 14,000 out of 800,000, that's a fraction. Right. So yes, totally $800 gets you in the top 30% of a market like that. You know what I mean? Exactly. Like, it's like, that's, I don't know. I think there's just a lot of different ways to paint a lot of different data, but I think for this to be healthy, you need a critical mass of people that want to be on here every day.
So you're on here every day. What's your day to day? Because I mean, I like to say, we all have our different roles in the content creator, you have definitely pioneered your way as the go-to source for the late breaking. You're like the Woj of TopShot, my show is I'm shooting for like that Sunday conversation type, angle. What do you, I've heard you talk like about your rig and like you've got like all these monitors and stuff. Like, is it TopShot like from morning till night, or, I assume you have another life too.
Oh man, you're asking for the secrets now. You're asking for the secret formula. Yeah, I have another life. I mean, yeah, there's some days where there's more TopShot than others. Like I still take a look at quite a few other NFT projects. Mm-hmm. And that's mainly to see if there's something else that the First Mint could cover, see if there's anything else that we think might be the next TopShot, or I don't know if there'll ever be another TopShot. In a way, I hope there is never another TopShot. I hope anything that's this big is smoother off the bat. I hope it's a more pleasant experience for more people. But I keep an eye out, and I think my day-to-day is actually more socializing. Like, this, we have an amazing community here. And I answer every single DM that I get, like for First Mint and my own account, like every single one. And we've got our own little like group of folks that are helping me out and that have been making some content for First Mint here and there. And we've got the website now. So I'd say like I spend a good amount of my day actually just like socializing and connecting with people and learning what's going on. And I try to take breaks away from it. You know what I mean? I try and take some time off. I think now, after doing it for a couple of months, I've got a pretty good sense of when news drops from TopShot and when it doesn't. Yeah. I'm also lucky, like you, West Coast. So the team that's doing the drops is here. So it's never going to be at 3 a.m. for me. So it puts me in a much better position to do that kind of stuff. But in terms of my rig, I don't know. It's nothing too fancy. I don't know. I just have like a few screens up where I just can just see what's going to happen. People have accused me of being an insider, and that's really flattering because it really just speaks to like how fast I am. Like I'm just ready. And I'll be honest with you, here's a little secret for you. It's like, yeah, like I try and post the news fast on Twitter, and it's like I have like some drafted tweets of like what could happen. You know what I mean? It's like a good example is like, okay, the base set we just had the other day was release 26. Which base set is next? Release 27. Like, so it's not hard to anticipate that what's going to happen once you actually look at it that way in TopShot. So I plan my day around that. Yeah. And I live in an area now on BC that is where I'm a 5-minute walk from both the ocean and the forest. So I have a nice opportunity right now to get out into nature whenever I can, which is ultimately very important when you spend too much time in crypto.
Yeah. So you're in the Vancouver area, right?
Yeah. I'm a couple hours away, but yeah, I'm near there.
So Vancouver has a very special place in my heart. I was there right before the Winter Olympics, but that was the first casino that I walked in. I want to say it's like Crystal or Edgewater Casino.
Edgewater Casino.
Edgewater, right by the stadium. That was the first casino I walked in and played casino poker, like at a live table. And I ended up 4,000 Canadian over the weekend. And that was like the worst thing that could have happened because that spawned my like 8-year professional career. But it all started because of Vancouver. And
wow, it's amazing.
Yeah. And so I always had a place in my heart for Vancouver. I feel like you got really lucky for a different reason as far as getting early into TopShot. Not just because you got early into TopShot and there is definitely a financial advantage to that and a knowledge advantage, but because of COVID and being kind of like I'm in Los Angeles, we've been locked down hardcore. Like I would have loved to have had all this going on in September, like back up to like May, like when we were like literally like in Los Angeles, we could not do anything even during the summer. Like they even shut down our beaches, which is ridiculous, So now that we're kind of slowly coming out of COVID and, we talked right before we started, like you have this bit of a travel bug in you. We were talking about how you went to Colombia backpacking. Where's the first place, like if you can take an extended like week or 2 long trip that and everything's opened up, where's the first place that's on your list? Doesn't have to be like bucket list, but just where like
I'd probably go back to Southeast Asia. Yeah, that'd probably be the best place to go. One of the last places I went was Vietnam, and I don't know. I'm a big fan of places where there's a lot of simplicity in the food and the lifestyle. So somewhere like a lot of countries in Southeast Asia to me are like Thailand's like a bit more of a circus, but places like Vietnam or maybe even Taiwan are like just places where it's like, especially Vietnam, like the food is incredible and the people are pretty straightforward and it's really easy to get around and not dangerous at all. For North American travelers. So I don't know. That's probably where I'd go. But I honestly like, a lot of people live in the Pacific Northwest. Like they're pretty obsessed with it.
Really?
Like, yeah, man. Like this is one of the only places in the world where it's like where the forest literally starts growing right where the ocean ends. Like the beaches here are rocks, which sounds really unappealing, I'm sure. But the nature here is so raw that I think probably what I would do is, once COVID was over, is I'd much rather organize like a big canoe trip around here than to get on a plane and go somewhere. I think. And also I think COVID's made us realize how gross everything is. No, but really think about it. Think about like before COVID, where it's like if you were going to work and your coworker came in with a cold and you're like, hey, go home. And your coworker's like, oh no, it's fine. And you'd be like, all right, whatever. And now if that happened, you'd be like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Like there is no way you'd be like doing things that now we realized how dirty they are. So even something like, even if COVID's gone and we're all vaccinated, it's like even getting on a plane, man, it's like, I don't know how much I want to be like right beside a bunch of other people for like 12 hours. It's like, that's just, you just realize how freaky that can be now.
So you haven't been on a plane in like a year?
No.
Oh,
I haven't
wow.
gone anywhere.
Okay.
Canada's screwed, man. We're in like terrible shape as well for vaccinations.
Really?
Like you guys are way ahead of us. Both BC and Ontario in the last couple of days have both gone back into full lockdown. So Ontario, like my brother and everybody, Easter weekend totally screwed. Yeah, we don't have spring break here. We call it March break. I don't know why. Anyways, but that was pushed to the Easter weekend, and now people are not going back to school after that. So
my ex-girlfriend lives in Cartagena, Colombia, and we kind of started dating right when this hit, which is not the best time to start like, hey, maybe we should have a relationship. And now we're long distance and lockdown. So that's a different story. But I did manage to get down there. We had this small window where like during the election where it's like you could travel, because nobody in America cared. They were just, focused on the election. So I snuck down there for like a week and a half, and I flew on the plane, and it's uncomfortable having to wear your mask and everything. But the eerie thing about travel was that because everyone's got masks on, nobody talks. So in the airport, they're still full, but nobody's talking. Like all the restaurants are closed, so there's none of that drunk jabber going on, like people missing their flights because they're wasted and all that. Like it was really eerie that way. But once I got to like Colombia, it's funny because South America is actually probably not considered as responsible. Like a lot of their place, like in Colombia, they were like, "Oh, we got rid of COVID." It was like,
no, I don't think you did. I don't think you did.
No.
Yeah.
but they were diligent about always wearing their mask and taking temperatures everywhere, but everything was open. And so it was kind of nice. I know that, we had talked about like you going through Colombia and backpacking, and then you went into Ecuador. So I have to ask, when you were in Ecuador, did you happen to go to Baños, Ecuador?
I've been on that swing, if that's what you're going to ask me.
Yes.
I saw it in your profile photo. I've been on that swing, man. Yes, I did go to Baños. I was going to rent a motorcycle there, and then the guy talked me out of it, which was good because I didn't know how to ride a motorcycle then. I did the whitewater rafting, and I fell in.
Yeah.
Which was pretty sketchy. And then another boat topped over, a bunch of Dutch tourists, so we had to rescue them. One girl was like crying. Baños, have a lot of great memories from Baños. I'm assuming, obviously, you've been.
Yeah.
And you had a good time.
I saw. I was at my buddy's wedding in South Carolina, and this is years ago when I would just pick up and go, and I was going through Google, and it was like top 25 places you got to see, and that was number 2, swing on the edge of the world, and for whatever reason as a kid I always liked swing, so I was like, I pulled it up. It was like $300 to fly down there from where I was at. I got on a plane, flew to Quito. Had no idea that it was like this long bus ride from Quito. And I speak Spanish now, but I didn't back then. And like in the middle of nowhere, and I get there. I did the swing. I obviously took pictures. That ended up becoming the cover of my book, actually. Like I wrote the book later, and when I was trying to figure out, I was like, what kind of my book's called The Bartending Therapist. So I was thinking like, a picture of a bartender or something. And then I just remember I had this picture. I was like, no, that's totally what the story is about. Anyways, there was a bridge in Baños where people could jump off, and it wasn't a bungee jump. It was just called like a bridge jump. And it's basically like rappelling rope. Did you remember seeing that?
Yeah, vaguely.
So I do the swing, and then my driver is like, there's this other swing on the backside of that mountain that was like really big. And so he's like, you should try that one. And I'm afraid of heights. That was kind of the whole purpose of doing the swing. And then so I do both swings. And then he's like, you should do the bridge jump. And I was like, but I'm kind of on a roll. Nice. And like, he like takes me to the bridge and like whistles, and some guy comes running out with a harness and just like clicks me in, and he's like, just make sure you jump. And it's like, yeah, it was the unsafest thing I've ever done in my life. And I'm not an adrenaline junkie, but like Banos and just those two countries are pretty amazing. What was your favorite part in your travel down there?
All of South America, you mean?
Yeah. Well, how far? I mean, did you go through?
No, yeah, we only did those two countries. I wanted to go further to come back. My favorite part, man. There's so much amazing stuff. I'd say like, I don't know, the vibe in Medellin was pretty great. Especially the people. I always love meeting the people and eating the food, and the people there in Medellin, obviously with, they're aware of the reputation that Colombia has and that their city has. Yeah. And they are so happy to see you, right? When they're like, wow, like, young people are coming from other countries to come vacation here. You could see how happy they were with that and how much they wanted to kind of like have a conversation and chat about it. And as well as I was pretty blown away with how modern the city was, like how modern the subway system was, and how many there's like a lot of university students and all that. So I really liked it just as like an eye-opening experience in terms of obviously the preconceived notions that you might have of a place like Medellin, Colombia. Outside of that, I'm a big fan of authentic experiences, man. Like I know we were talking before about how like taking the bus takes 12 hours and it's tough, but man, I don't know. Like, it's like that to me is some of the best, as much as it can be really painful. That's some of the best ways to like really enjoy a place, is to really live it like the locals do. Right. And not like the rich tourists do. And that's why it's like, I places like that, it's like, I like taking the cheap chicken bus and getting the food on the side of the road where the construction workers are, is like that to me. I'm like, that's you're living like how people there live. And that to me is the best sense of immersion into it. Like obviously going to the coffee farms and all that kind of stuff. That's, that's where you get some of the really amazing experiences and tastes and aromas.
Right.
Ecuador, I'm a big fan of like, just kind of like demographics and ethnography. And it's just like, Ecuador, especially seeing the difference in the people between who was clearly from a colonist ancestry versus who is from an Andean ancestry, to me was mind blowing down there.
Right.
Where basically, and not to, it's not a conversation about race, but what I mean is that you can tell when you're in Ecuador, especially the people who are Ecuadorian, who were descendant from either Spanish or Portuguese folks hundreds of years ago, and which ones were very clearly raised in the mountains, because they look incredibly different. Yeah. And that is like that. And then you also notice the people that are from the Andean heritage that, you're trying to like go for a hike and you're dying at the elevation up in Quito and you're just like panting and your like heart just feels like it's pumping out of your eyeballs, and they just cruise by with like 1 million groceries and like 2 kids on their back, and they just blow right up the mountain. And you're like, man, these people have a totally different blood running through their veins.
Machu Picchu is a lot like that. You take a train and in between Cusco and in the base of the tourist area in Machu Picchu, like you'll pass through these areas and you'll see them on the side of the road. Not only are they like super short, but it's just like, it's like a time machine, they look like from a different era for sure. And that's
the authenticity I'm talking about, right? Is like, it's like, man, like that's what I want to see. I don't want to go stay at like the resort or any of that crap. Like, it's like, no, I just want to be as close to the everyday person from that country as I can be, because that's where you'll probably learn the most and also have like the life-changing experience that you hope for in travel, right? And that to me is the difference between travel and vacation.
I travel mostly by myself, just because I hate waiting for people to get their schedule to go. And I'm the type that like, I think I want to go somewhere tomorrow, and I'll jump on the plane. Like, but what I love about traveling by myself is I call it isolating in a crowd, and like walking down the streets of Quito in an area where I know there's no chance in hell I'm going to see anybody that I know. At that time, I didn't speak Spanish, so I couldn't easily communicate. So like I'm hearing all these conversations, but I have no idea what they're saying. so it's like I'm really like isolated, but I'm surrounded by a culture and a people. And there's something very it's just very good for my soul, like I need that in my life, like, every couple months, that kind of charges me, and
have you been anywhere this year then?
I did go to
Colombia. I mean, other than when you went to Colombia, but I mean, like, have you gone anywhere else?
I went to the southern part of the United States a few times for like some contract work, but as far as international, no. I mean, the years before COVID, I filled up a whole passport book, like
nice.
I've done a lot of Colombia, all over Colombia and South America, and all over Europe. And I did this crazy trip actually, where in 11 days I flew around the world. It was when my book came out, and I flew from LA to Tokyo to Helsinki, Budapest, Lithuania, Munich, Barcelona, and then LA in 11 days. Like that was intense. But like even stuff like that, I like. It's funny you say about like the planes and like the disgustingness. I love being on a plane, and just as long as I got the window seat, like I get the best sleep of my life on the plane, because like I can finally put down these things, like legit, and put it on airplane mode, and
that's good,
and watch movies, uninterrupted.
Hey, listen, I'm not saying I have a problem with going on a plane from this point on. I just think COVID is going to make us realize how unclean a lot of things that we do are. And how it's totally, for some reason, it's been totally normal for people to be really sick and to still go and be amongst other people.
Oh, but in the old days, like if you called out sick, like you were a wuss, like suck it up, like
exactly.
I bartended part-time, and the only time I ever missed because I was sick was because I would literally lose my voice. And it's like, I can't talk to a customer. Like, like I'd be on the phone, like, and they couldn't even hear me because I lost. It's like, all right, you should probably stay home. It's like, probably, come on, dude.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's especially food servers. Like there's nothing worse than seeing a food server sneeze.
Who's sick. Yeah, exactly. And I agree with you. Yeah.
So we kind of went over the time that we were shooting for. I do want to ask you, like, one of your games on your show is kind of which would you rather, like your choice. So my question is, would you rather have a mid-tier number one player? So I'm going to go with like a number one metallic gold Damian Lillard, or would you like Vancouver to have a non-playoff basketball team again?
Wait, what do you mean? Wait, was the first option like I have the moment? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Like you have like a number one of like Damian Lillard moment, and we'll just say metallic gold series one, all right. Okay. Or a Vancouver basketball team that is not going to make the playoffs.
The team for sure. I grew up in Toronto, so I'm a Raptors fan. So that's like it's not we're good for a little while in terms of success, which is nice. Finally, Toronto had a winner. But man, I'd kill to get some basketball. Absolutely. Ever since I've been out here for like 6 or 7 years, and we got to drive 8 hours south to go to Portland to go see a game.
See that? But I knew you were a Toronto fan, so that's why I gave it some thought, because it's like
that's good.
I lived in New Orleans back when Chris Paul was with the Hornets, and I never went to one NBA game because they were terrible. Like it was the worst basketball ever. And Chris Paul wasn't Chris Paul back then either. Now I'm a Hornets or a Pelicans fan because I love Zion and I'm a Duke guy. And you guys Canadians have RJ Barrett, so Team Canada. You guys,
Team Canada is super good now, man.
yeah.
Like we're gonna do super well, man. We got Shea Gilgeous, Jamal Murray, RJ Barrett. We got big man. We got Kelly Olynyk, Kelly Olynyk. Like we've got like some decent Canadian players. Like finally, because it's pretty dismal. Like after Steve Nash was like nobody else.
It was funny because you did a show where I forget. I think it might have been Stephanie that you had on in it, and it was like kind of name like Canadian players, and she couldn't do it, and I was just like, Canada's
it was Tamara. We had
Tamara
Tamara TopShot. She came on and she was a big Duke fan, and then Phil
yeah.
quizzed her on like Duke players, and she like couldn't name any of them, and that was hilarious. Yeah. But it's also, I mean, it's not something like as Canadians as being like the much smaller market beside the much bigger market. Like obviously we're stoked whenever there's a Canadian person who's doing something notable on the bigger stage. But I don't expect Americans to be like, oh yes, like every celebrity, I know exactly where they're from. Like, that's not realistic. And especially when they don't, it's not like Canadians come into the NBA with like a clearly Canadian name. It's not like European players, right? It's like Bogdan Bogdanovic. It's like, all right, it's probably not an American guy, but someone like Jamal Murray is like, okay, well, that's pretty interesting. That could be from either country. Like there's
Jamal sneaky. RJ, he's got a Canadian feel about. But I saw RJ with like RJ, Zion, and Cam. Like there was so much social media around them. Like especially as soon as they got on the campus at Duke, like and RJ would talk. It's like, oh, he doesn't sound American.
Doesn't sound the same. Yeah, we've got a few other guys. We can still fill out the team with some pretty good guys. Like we got Lou Dort, Chris Boucher, Corey Joseph. People forget it's Canadian. Plays for the Kings now. Trying to think. There's quite a few others, I'm sure. But yeah, like we have a pretty decent team now, which is great. And what's funny is that is 100% an effect of Vince Carter.
Yeah,
because that like. Listen, man, early 2000s. And a lot of those guys, I guess they're kind of born around then or a little bit before, but it's like mid 90s when the basketball came to Canada, like there was appetite, but there was no hype. You know what I mean? It's like, there was like, it was cool, but it was like, there was no heroes, and the Grizzlies never had any heroes.
Big Country Reeves, Bryant Reeves.
That's not a hero. Actually a local woman actually like made a documentary about trying to find him a couple of years ago, and she was able to track him down on a farm. It's called Finding Big Country. I highly recommend it if you're a fan of that. Now because of the Carter effect, like we have like there's a huge interest when the Raptors won the championship, but also like we have like good Canadian basketball players now. There's been enough interest that it's bred enough programs in Canada for more youth to go to follow that stream and maybe to not play like hockey or soccer like they would otherwise. So it's really good.
Yeah, I always enjoy like Damian Stoudemire. I mean, Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady. That was just such a combo. And I played Tracy McGrady's from my area, so my buddy actually played him in high school, and T-Mac dropped 65 on him in high school. So
really,
yeah,
I'm not surprised.
I actually grew up 10 minutes from Kinston High School, which is, if you Google Kinston, North Carolina, it is the highest per capita for professional athletes in the world. And Jerry Stackhouse, Reggie Bullock, Brandon Ingram, and I think they're all.
What's in the water, man? What's in the water down there?
It's that my area where I grew up is like legit. Like Michael Jordan played in our conference. He played in Wilmington. Mm-hmm. And, like I played in that high school, and that was pretty trippy. It's Andy Griffith from the Mayberry Show taught high school in my hometown, but that particular Kinston's actually the suburb of where I grew up. So my town's like 20,000, Kinston's like 2,000. And all they know how to do is make NBA and NFL players, because they got like 10 NFL players too.
That's it. It self-perpetuates, I'm sure, too, right? Because then people are like, you got to follow this legacy, and there's more interest. So that makes sense. There's a few other players to name you that are Canadian. I just looked it up. Andrew Wiggins, and Tristan Thompson. So we can actually field a pretty good 10 players. We have a normal NBA team of 10 guys, pretty much, more or less.
No, I mean,
week up the middle, but
you're for sure like a silver bronze team. And I could even say like you could win the gold as long as America puts that like Jason Tatum led team, like
yeah,
like that
I
was
don't
the
know, man.
biggest.
Yeah, the international teams are pretty good too, though. You still got to get through the classic like Spain, Lithuania, Argentina gauntlet.
Oh, for sure, for sure. But
Yeah, they're pretty good.
I think you guys, there's something to be said about like that's the problem with international is like there are teams that like even the Spain team that adds like the Gasol brothers and like Rubio, but there's like 8 or 9 of those the other guys that know each other very well and have played more together. Whereas we have this mentality in America, and it proves that it just doesn't always work. Like you just can't throw, like pros together for like 2 months and have them show up. Now, if
No,
those pros are Carmelo, LeBron, Kobe, Dwayne Wade, like I don't know how much coaching Coach K really had to do.
no,
But,
yeah.
No,
That's fair. Yeah, it depends. It depends. It could still fall apart.
yeah,
It won't always necessarily work. But yeah, that's fair.
we're a long way from '92 Dream Team. So
That's without a doubt. Without a doubt, man.
yeah, well, I think you got a dream team over there at the First Mint. We've had Plunge Father on. We'll have to get the real Phil D on one day these days.
Yeah, you should, man. Yeah, get Phil D out there for sure.
Give him some love and you're doing a great service and love what the First Mint is doing and I appreciate your open honesty and candor. I will never tweet at you and ask you if I should go all in on a Nicole Jokic and sell my Jamal Murray's or Donovan Mitchell's. Like
I mean, you could, man. If you, I will give you an ambiguous response. So you can hit me with that. I just won't say yes or no. I'll just say something kind of cheeky. I'll be like, depends if you like Jokic and Mitchell. Like, just say something that's kind of broad.
I think somehow I avoided all of that. Like nobody hits me up for any of those anymore. I used to get it in the Discord a lot, but no more. Like
they'll come back. That'll come back. I think a lot of people who are still sticking around, they kind of have a good sense of that by now. But I think we're going to see another wave of people coming soon.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, brother. Well, I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll put this up this weekend and see what happens. And we wish you the best. And here's to the First Mint getting minted many, many times over, and 40,000 Twitter followers now. Your next pump is, to the moon. So
I see. Appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. For Top Shot NFT, I'm Jason. We'll see you next time.